Tong Sahor has now found himself in court. And no, I'm not talking about the JP Morgan guy. I'm talking about the AI cartoon Brainrot character. Because believe it or not, a viral AI wooden stick is now at the center of a copyright battle that could affect Roblox, Fortnite, and the future of AI art, I guess. Because imagine just telling someone 10 years ago that a federal judge would one day have to decide who owns Tong Sahor. Somehow that's exactly where we are. A viral AI-generated wooden stick carrying a baseball bat is now at the center of one of the strangest copyright lawsuits I've ever seen. I guess as ridiculous as it all sounds, this case could actually have huge consequences for AI-generated content. Roblox, Fortnite, and pretty much anyone creating art with AI. So, if you've somehow avoided brain rot for the last year and so, let me catch you up. Tong Sahor, often abbreviated to Tong Sahor, he's an AI-generated meme character. He first appeared in early 2025, created by an Indonesian TikTok creator known as Noxa. The character is apparently based on a real Indonesian Ramadan tradition involving a kentagan, which is apparently a wooden slit drum that's used to wake people up before Sahor, the pre-dawn meal before fasting begins. So I guess the internet just did its thing and turned that idea into a AI-generated wooden guy with glowing eyes carrying a baseball bat, and somehow it became massive. It spread across TikTok, YouTube, Roblox, Fortnite, and pretty much every corner of the internet where kids exist, because apparently they thought this was hilarious. Essentially, Italian brain rot is what went viral after kids got tired of Skibbity Toilet. But Tong Sahor is apparently one of the most recognizable brain rot characters. It even surprisingly has a detailed Wikipedia page documenting its history, cultural origins, appearances in video games, and now its copyright status. That's right, there's literally a section on Wikipedia called copyright status for a talking AI wooden stick. Because apparently when Tong Sahor became popular, it also became valuable. And whenever something on the internet becomes valuable, people start arguing about who owns it. So the companies at the center of all this are called Spider Games and Speedy Simulator Gaming. They're the developers behind Steal a Brain Rot, one of Roblox's biggest games. And the whole idea of this game is players collect these bizarre brain rot characters, earn money from them, and even steal them from other players. And because Tong Sahor was, I guess, one of the biggest internet memes around, he of course ended up in the game. And at first, nobody really thought too much of it, but then a French company called Momentum Labs stepped in. Momentum says it represents Noxa, the Indonesian creator behind Tong Sahor, and he claims that it manages the commercial rights of the character. So, according to the filings, Momentum sent the game's developers a cease and desist letter back in September of 2025. This is essentially a legal notice saying, "We believe that you're using our intellectual property without permission. Please stop." And after getting that letter, the developers actually removed Tong Sahor from the game, while the two sides, I guess, tried to negotiate some sort of licensing deal. But those negotiations apparently fell apart. So the character eventually came back to the game. And this is where things really escalated, because instead of simply just waiting to get sued, the developers went on the offense. They actually filed a lawsuit in federal court asking a judge to declare Momentum doesn't actually own a valid US copyright over Tong Sahor or several other brain rot characters. Now, if you're sitting here thinking to yourself, how can there even be a lawsuit over a AI generated meme that was generated in Indonesia? Yeah, that's kind of the point. There's a whole lot of questions in the air here, because this isn't just a fight over one talking wooden stick. It's a fight over what the law thinks about AI-generated content. So, here's the big legal question. Can you actually copyright something that was created with AI? Well, the answer isn't as simple as yes or no, because a lot of people online have been saying, well, it's AI generated, so nobody can own it. And then you have a whole group of people that essentially say that AI just steals a bunch of assets from real artists and use those to generate whatever it generates. So this will definitely be interesting to see how it's ruled on in US court. Because under current US law, copyright protects original works of human authorship. So yeah, that poses the question, what happens when it's computer generated? So my understanding of it is there has to be enough human creativity behind the work. So if something is created entirely by artificial intelligence without meaningful human input, it isn't really eligible for copyright protection. But here's where things get a little bit messy. So what happens if the person uses AI as a tool and I guess they spend days refining prompts, changing ideas, coming up with the character's personality, writing its story, picking its voice, creating its music, and shaping everything until it becomes the final version everyone knows. Like, at what point does it become their creative work instead of something a computer just spit out? And that's exactly what these two sides are currently fighting about. The developers behind Steal Brainrot argue that Tong Sahor was generated by AI, so Momentum can't claim a valid US copyright over the character. Momentum completely disagrees. They say that Noxa didn't just type a sentence into ChatGPT and call it a day. No, according to their filings, he developed the character through an involved creative process, coming up with the name, backstory, the voice, the music, the videos, and just the overall vibe of the character. And all of this obviously makes up the identity of Tong Sahor. So essentially this lawsuit is kind of asking how much human creativity is enough for it to be copyrightable. There's another layer to this that makes this case even more confusing, because Momentum isn't just arguing about copyright, they're also arguing about trademark. And those are two completely different things. Think of copyright as protecting the creative work itself, and trademark, on the other hand, protects branding. It's essentially what tells customers, hey, this product or character comes from us. So Momentum says that people now link Tong Sahor with the creator they represent. They claim they've already licensed the characters for all kinds of products, including other games, toys, books, ebooks, consumer products, and even Fortnite. I mean, I was grocery shopping in Norway and I saw Brainrot soda for sale in rural Norway. I was in a small town with like 3,000 people, something like that, whatever Folvung has. How many people live in Folvung, Norway? 712 to 720 people live in Folvung, Norway, and they somehow have Brainrot soda. It's pretty global. Regardless, the developers of Steal Brainrot say not so fast. They argue that Tong Sahor is a fictional character, not a brand, and that Momentum is trying to use trademark law to get control over creative content when it's really just a copyright issue. So now, essentially, the judge has to sort through both arguments. Who, if anyone, owns the copyright? Can the character function as a trademark? If neither applies, can anyone actually stop other people from using this meme? Because on one side, you have lawyers arguing over federal copyright law, and on another side, they're arguing about a glowing-eyed wooden stick named Tong Sahor. Okay. And I genuinely don't know how the judge keeps a straight face reading some of these filings. Because I mean, one day you're handling billion-dollar business disputes, and the next day you're reading court documents about whether Bombardino Crocodilo qualifies for intellectual property protection. I guess this is just where we are in society. The judge hasn't actually ruled on any of this yet. Right now, both sides are basically telling the court, the law is on our side. So it'll be interesting. Spider Games says that these characters don't qualify for copyright because of how they were created. Meanwhile, Momentum says there was plenty of human creativity involved and that they've been licensing Tong Sahor to other companies for a while now. So nobody has officially won yet. In fact, one of the biggest reasons people in the legal world are paying attention to this case is because there isn't a clear answer yet. The US Copyright Office says that essentially copyright protection works of human authorship. But as AI becomes more common, courts are still figuring out where that line really is. How much AI is too much AI? And that's why this lawsuit could end up being remembered as a world-changing lawsuit. Because as crazy as this sounds, whatever happens to this lawsuit will probably shape any future AI-generated copyright dispute. And obviously, these are actually some big companies. Like, just for context here, allegedly, To Steal Brainrot, this Roblox game, is making $10 to $11 million in real-world revenue a month. There are some Roblox kids out here who are making very popular games who are making stupid money. And I can only imagine how much the licensing deals for Tong Sahor and all the other characters are worth. So both sides of this lawsuit, they're gonna have a whole lot of money, which honestly really makes me want to go see it in person. So if you guys want me to go cover it in person like I did with the insane TikTok psychic, like I did in this video right here, which you can watch here, drop a like on this video, subscribe if you're new, check out that video because that's just like one of the craziest videos I've ever made, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.